Greetings. It is Thursday, May the 22nd, 2025. I'm Thomas Caldwell of the Aurelian Column, and this is the Midweek Report. Last night there was a shooting in Washington, D.C., which is not unusual for Washington, D.C., but this one took the lives of two young Israeli diplomats. It occurred in front of the Israeli Museum in Northwest. There was an event going on of some kind. There was a man who was hanging around, and although the details are still not completely known, he shot them both down in cold blood, entered the building, and effectively surrendered, has been taken into police custody. I will not mention his name, but he's a young man from Chicago. He does not have a name that came from the Middle East or is Arabic. The gunman was said to have started yelling, "Free Palestine, Free Palestine," and was eventually hauled off, and that's the way it went. These are two young diplomats. They were a couple, supposedly going to be announcing their engagement sometime soon. Another nasty tragedy added on to a pile of nasty tragedies that we've been seeing lately. Going after diplomats never goes well, no matter what the situation, no matter what the conflict, or no matter what the controversy. Diplomats, if you've ever met any of them, they tend to be the very best their respective country can produce. They tend to be most decent, most educated, most civilized. I've met them from every continent. You'd be surprised how brilliant some of the people from third world backward countries are when they're in their diplomatic corps of their respective nations. And the idea of two young people who basically were just out trying to do their job were just killed for it. Diplomats are traditionally off the target list. And it's also why assassinations of any kind never work. This is going to be used politically, and this is what's really sad about it. At the press conference following this, the Israeli ambassador to the United States, who was actually born in the United States from Pennsylvania, as I recall, the agenda's being set. It's a tragedy, but it's one that's not going to be put to waste. Now, why is it that whenever diplomats get killed, things get really, really bad? Well, World War II probably happened because of that. You've heard of Kristallnacht, right? When all the synagogues in Germany were set on fire, or at least a good number of them. What set that off was the assassination of a diplomat in Paris by a Jewish extremist. Well, that happened when Germany was negotiating with Poland over the things that Germany eventually invaded Poland over. That one assassination could have led to World War II, if you look at it in that perspective, and some historians do. It's never a good idea to do these sorts of things. This man, who probably was just watching the news about all the bad things going on in Gaza, like most people, he decided to just go off and make his life count for something, because it sure doesn't count for anything anymore. He's probably looking at hate crime charges that resulted in death, and that's probably going to be a federal death penalty. No, this guy's going to get the needle. Watch how this goes, because it's not going to go into a good place. Meanwhile, Gaza, which was the motivation for this tragedy, is an increasing horror, if that can be a thing. Food has been cut off. The media is flooded with pictures of children who are obviously starving. People are being told to move into smaller and smaller areas as airstrikes continue, blowing up what little remains of that godforsaken location. More and more Palestinians are dying every day, and Gaza is effectively going to be annexed by the Israelis, and Benjamin Netanyahu has made that quite clear. The West Bank is pretty much gone, by the way, for those of you who are rooting for the Palestinian side in that conflict. If you look at the map, it says one thing, but if you look at how many Palestinian settlements are still in the West Bank, it's very, very few. That whole mess still continues. how many decades? We're going to be hitting, we're 80 years now that whole thing has been such a mess like that. And two people of two related religions still can't live together. Yeah, that's a sad situation. But when it comes to murders of people over this, I have a very sickening feeling we have not seen the last of that. You are probably going to see more Israelis or Jewish people targeted, and I do predict you're going to start seeing people who are pro-Palestinian being targeted. It's not going to stop until something makes it stop. Meanwhile, speaking of killing and mass killing, President Donald Trump confronted South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, I believe you pronounce his name, in the Oval Office yesterday over allegations of the genocide of Afrikaners. Those are the indigenous white people of South Africa. And I do mean indigenous. Their ancestors have been there for more than 400 years, and they settled that part of the continent before any other humans that we know of. Never mind. Let's not let reality get in the way of belief. These people are being killed. Recently, they have been given political asylum here in the United States and refugee status, which is just fair. Donald Trump really took this guy to task, and to his credit, the president of South Africa just sat there and smiled. He just sat there and took it. He didn't get into any confrontation. That wouldn't have gone very well for him, and he knew that, and they were probably expecting something like this. One correction, by the way, which I'm sure the mainstream media is not going to let anyone forget. Remember when President Trump was looking at that field of crosses? Those weren't graves. Those were memorials to people who were massacred for their farms and because of the color of their skin and their ethnic background. Those were not graves. So just to correct that. Well, what do we do about this? First off, if you've been listening to my reports for the last few years, you know that I've mentioned this on occasion. I mentioned it last week, and every so often I'll talk about it. Very few other people have. It is quite real. I have my contacts in South Africa for about 35 years, maybe. Although many of my friends have left, there still are people that are there, and this is not anything open to debate. It really isn't. Any journalist with even the least bit of talent goes down there looking for the truth. They come back with it. Now, one very talented journalist is Katie Hopkins. Back in 2018, a documentary was done called Plaasmoord, The Killing Fields of South Africa. And it is a very good, very disturbing documentary. Again, Plaasmoord, you can find it up on YouTube for free. I'll spell it for you. Plaasmoorde. Check it out. Watch it. Remember to drink from the fountain of knowledge. Do not just gargle at it, or worse, listen to someone who gargled at it. The African National Congress is run by a bunch of corrupt monsters. It's a communist organization. They are not nice people. The guy you saw sitting next to Donald Trump yesterday is not a nice man. They are taking away the land that these people have farmed. They are not compensating. In many cases, they're just murdering them. They really are. The government there is complicit in this. Now, there's a lot of people that are going to say, no, no, no. So let me offer you a suggestion. Why not have a formal United Nations investigation into the allegations of genocide against the white population of South Africa? Or even bring some congressmen down there. Just look into it. The truth never should be afraid of being examined. Ever. We can go looking for weapons of mass destruction. I don't see why we can't go looking for cases where people have been murdered for their farms or tortured. You know how the tortures go down there? I'm not going to go into that. It's gone into in this documentary and others if you look for them. It's pretty horrifying. I have a collection of photographs that some people have sent me on it. It's pretty messy. So why not do a formal investigation? Why not have a congressional investigation? Have people come from South Africa and testify. That's what Nuremberg was for the most part, people coming in and testifying. This is what happened to them. Okay, let's do the same thing with South Africa. All these networks, CBS, ABC, NBC, and of course CNN, the worst of the bunch, they're saying it isn't true. Well, you know what? Send your teams down there. Send your investigators, your reporters down there and look into it for yourself, but you're not going to. Tim Kaine, remember him, who was trying to become vice president? Well, on Capitol Hill, he was saying how it's all a bunch of nonsense. Yeah, okay. These people really want to see white people done away with. And not just in South Africa. Horrible things have been done to that population on that continent, in that country. Why not go in there with good investigative teams, just like you were looking for nuclear weapons or chemical weapons, and go in and interview people, go to these villages, go to these towns, go to these farms, go to those graves. Why not do that? I can imagine why you won't. Again, the documentary you want to check out by Katie Hopkins, Plasmord, The Killing Fields of South Africa, done in 2018, Plaasmoorde, available up on YouTube, and it won't cost you anything. Now, speaking of tyrants and corruption, Romania. Okay, they're now seemingly settling into the cold reality that their new president was chosen by the European Union and not elected by them. Pretty obvious, but nobody likes to look at the obvious. One more victory for the globalists who are spreading like a cancer among the nations of the world. Donald Trump still has not sent the new president a congratulatory message, I understand. It's doubtful that he will at this point, although there is going to be a new ambassador and all the other stuff. There's still going to be business done. But this is just underscoring the horror of Europe, as they're not fighting back. They're being invaded by millions of people from the Middle East and Africa, millions, that are causing all sorts of mayhem, that are sucking their economies dry. Their ancestors would have fought and died to defend their countries, and they're just giving them away. Great Britain is effectively gone, you know. It really is. And the man who's heading up that country, that prime minister, he is just a monster. Land being taken away from families that have farmed it for hundreds of years, as is the case in Great Britain. That's wrong. Tyranny's on the march. Tyranny is on the march. Romanians, though, do have a habit of fighting back. At some point, they did take Mr. Ceausescu and execute him on television back in the day, and that was that was great. I applauded for that, really, at the time. That guy was a horror. Tyranny is on the march, and it's not just on the march in Europe. It's not just on the march in the Middle East. It's on the march in the United States. Donald Trump, if you like him or hate him, it doesn't matter. He's on the side of the good guys in the cases we're seeing. He is. He's holding back the dike. He's the guy who's trying to say, we got to keep this from flooding in, drowning all of us. But we have people in our government on Capitol Hill who want to see our country destroyed. There's no other explanation for it. And although I'm not one to give into conspiracy-type thinking, you have to look for a pattern here. You have to notice patterns. Europe has been around for a couple thousand years, more or less in the form it's in. Of course, the Roman Empire's come and gone and a few other things, but those were sovereign countries for millennia, and they're just giving up and dying. They're committing suicide. How do you deal with that? Tyranny is on the march, and when it's on the march, the only way to stop it is with force, and that's where we're heading. Now, the United States, it doesn't have to go that way. We have a chance to avoid what is obviously going to be a mess in Europe, worse than it is now, because people at some point are going to fight back. It may be too late, and it'll be a bloodbath when it happens. You have to just look at reality here. People have to open their eyes if they're going to avoid getting hit by the truck that's coming at them out of the dark. And in the United States, we still have a chance to do that. Race relations in this country are being manipulated. They really are. If you've been around as long as I have, you remember when we got along better here. We really did. But when you start broadcasting lies, which is what much of the mainstream media does, and just insisting it's the truth, what is it that somebody said back in Europe, back in the day? The more you say a lie, the more you repeat it over and over again, eventually it becomes the truth. And when that happens, it's game over. And there's no other place to run to in this world. So it's either we stand up to the bad guys or they're going to destroy us. If we can't stand up for ourselves, there's no hope for anyone. That's it for today. If you appreciate my work, please like, subscribe, and share. Share with your friends and share with your enemies. Hope they become friends and hope they have open eyes someday as well. Please consider a paid subscription. It keeps the lights on literally and figuratively, and I do have a fundraiser for new equipment so I can move into video. That's something I'm really hoping to do soon. I can be reached at feedback@aureliancolumn.com. That's feedback@aureliancolumn.com. I'm up on X. My handle there is MICCAMPEN. That's MICCAMPEN. This podcast originates at Substack. My handle there is aureliancolumn.substack.com. Until we meet again, be good, be safe, be vigilant, and remember, Clown World and the Deep State must be destroyed. Really, got to be destroyed. Good day.